the November meeting of the Kentucky State Board of Elections. I need a motion to go back into open session. Motion by Member Johnson, second by Member Brangers. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, we're now back in open session. As you all know, we have lost our executive director, and it has put us in a situation where we have found ourselves with the necessity of choosing a new Democratic representative on the executive team and a new executive director. We have had excellent candidates, and I think it's safe to say that this has not been an easy decision for any member of the board. But I think we have come to a decision, and I would like to accept a motion if anybody'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make that motion.
Member Brangers.
Yes, I would like to make the motion that we offer the position of executive director to Karen Sellers and of the assistant director to Mr. Richard House, as well as to authorize the chairman of the board to negotiate salaries with those individuals.
Very good. Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Member Brangers, and we have a second by Member Johnson. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, very good. We have a unanimous vote, and we'll see if I've got the ability to negotiate with those folks
See you guys. Gotta
successfully. See you, Jerry. Thank
Thank
you.
you all
Jerry.
so much.
Thank you, Jerry.
All right, Karen, we've got very little time. First of all, I want to congratulate you. And I also want to congratulate Richard, because Richard is very highly thought of by everybody on this board. And we hope that both of you, once I visit with you, will be prepared to accept, come to some agreement and accept the offer. Anyway.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for all your good work. We're in a bit of a time crunch, so let's if we could go through the financial reports very quickly.
Well, on behalf of Rachel, who was not well today, fortunately, you have those in advance of the meeting, and there weren't any, significant transactions in the month of October. Happy for anyone to ask a question here on Zoom. Sheila's taking good minutes. We'll write it down. We'll get with Rachel. And if you have any particular question, how about if I just have her reply back to you on email in the essence of time? The only thing I would mention is that currently we are sending out the SBE, or we have sent out the SBE 2000s, which is the reimbursement that we do for every county for personnel. And Lynn's shaking her head, and James too, because they know what that means. Yes, and those have gone out, and we've already been distributing checks to those counties, and they have till the 30th of this month to get that form back to us. So that's really, the main thing that's going on with the financials this month.
Okay, very good. Anybody have any questions about that financial report? And is everybody comfortable with looking over the financials and asking any questions if they've got them? All right, very good. We'll move on. County plans for the upcoming 2022 primary election. Karen, can you do this quickly?
Yes. So
okay.
I had sent, there were 13 plans. I sent those in advance. I know it was a lot to send in advance, but quickly, of those 13 counties, 11 of them are doing vote centers. 2 of them are opening all their precincts in their counties. I can list the counties if you like, as soon as I get to it right here. Adair County, all precincts. Clark County is opening 5 vote centers. Crittenden, 5 vote centers. Hardin, 7 vote centers. Henderson, 6. Livingston, 2. Monroe, 3. Owen, 6. Perry, 4 vote centers, and 16 additional locations where they're combining precincts in some of the outlying areas. Perry's a large county. Rowan is opening all their precincts. Trigg is doing 5 vote centers. Union is doing 8 vote centers, and Whitley is doing 5, I believe. Here, I've already forgotten, but Taylor and I reviewed all these. We took quite a bit of time going through, looking at the geographical areas of the counties. What county may have, a lot of rural in one part of the county, so their vote center, might be up to 8 to 10 miles. But we did try very hard, and we worked with each one of these counties to hopefully get everything placed where it makes good sense for the voter to get to it. It's not about, I think, as we've all said in the past, it's about getting the voter to the polls and the ease of voting and making sure that they have access to that poll through a vote center or through their precinct. We believe that that's happened with these election plans. Now, we are approving them. It's November. If you do recall, Perry County already decided to add 1 vote center. And I believe that still could happen. But many of these counties were particularly interested in getting approved a little bit early because they're all ordering election equipment, and at least having a process that they know that they're going to be able to have vote centers will make a difference in the amount of equipment they have to order. I'm happy to take any questions. Taylor, we worked, pretty closely together on this and with each of those individual counties. But our plan is to try to bring this kind of number to you each month, so it's not like overwhelming, 80 in one sitting.
So what's the number again, Karen, that we've got before us?
There's 13 plans
All
for
right.
today.
For today, and you want us to approve those 13 plans?
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions about any of those 13 plans? Mr.
Yes.
Secretary.
Yes. Go ahead,
Hey, thank
Mr.
you.
Secretary.
Just a couple quick questions. So I looked at these 2, and it looks like every one of these counties has a plan that is at least as, for lack of a better term, open, has at least as many locations for November of 22 as they had for November of 2020. I do expect the turnout to be lower in 2022 than it was in 2020 because it's not a presidential year. So if no county is reducing beyond what they had a year ago, then in theory, they should be okay with that number going forward. But I did want to ask about 2 of them, Clark and Livingston. It seemed like those were pretty significant reductions from the normal number of precincts. Y'all have gone through those, I understand, but is there a reason they felt they needed to consolidate so significantly? The reason last year was, COVID. It's hard to get poll workers, hard to get locations. Was there I'll confess I didn't get to read them all word for word. Was there a rationale from those 2 counties as to why they were limiting their sites so narrowly?
Well, Taylor and I actually had a conversation with Clark because we were concerned, they had everything that would come focused to the middle of or around Winchester. And we felt like there was one area of the county, and we looked to see the number of precincts and the number of voters in that area. As you can see, they had 4 that were pretty much around Winchester. A lot of around Winchester, of course, is farmland. But down in that far corner where we had them add a 5th, they are now probably, Taylor, you can speak up too. I think they're within 5 to 8 miles of anyone getting to a poll in Clark. And they're all vote centers. In Livingston, I had a good conversation with Sonia, and I think Taylor was part of that too. The way Livingston is laid out, and she practically drew it out for me on a map on the phone, they are divided by a river. And she said the way that it works, that the best for their counties and with her, the best for her county and her precinct or her vote centers. And after talking to her county board of elections, and they, went over that, and in her narrative, she explains that layout of Livingston, and they felt like that was the best option for Livingston based on locale and the ability that one half of the county is on one side of the river, the other side has that, but they're both vote centers. So if someone crosses the river, they can still vote north. That, they're both vote centers, but that was their rationale, was the layout of their county and the division of the river. Now I've not personally been to Livingston. I know Lynn has, I'm sure you have.
My mom is from there. I know Livingston.
Oh,
That
well,
makes a lot of
yeah.
sense.
So, but her rationale, she made it, and I asked her to put it in the narrative, and I know it was a lot to try to read all that.
You did. It was in there.
It was in there, and having talked to her and worked with her on the phone, I believe that they have done the best they can for their county, and their county board believes it as well.
And did we get any complaints or concerns from those counties last year in terms of long lines or anything like that?
She said not. I mean, that was one of the things I wanted to, find out, is how was the county's reaction. And the one thing that we have found consistent, and Taylor could probably say this too, I mean, they didn't get complaints. Now, it will be reduced to 3 days of early voting, which we have reminded all the counties that could be, they need to take that into consideration as part. They won't have 3 weeks this time to run people through. But like you said, this will not be the turnout likely that we had in 2020.
Sorry, just one last question. Do we expect these counties all now to do what Lewis County did and offer basically a plan with a number on it and ask for funding?
Now, you mean for the funding that I'll talk about next?
Yeah.
You mean the HAVA funding?
Yeah.
Yes, but now, so do you want me to move on to that, or you want to?
Oh, sure. You answered my question.
Oh, okay, and then I'll explain about the HAVA, because
Well,
the next thing, the last thing I did.
Well, let's us approve these plans if everybody's prepared.
Make that motion.
Motion
Chairman, may
by-
I real quick? Sorry.
Well, we've got a motion on the floor by Member Lane. Do we have further? Can I have a
Well,
second?
I can withdraw it till he speaks.
Well,
I'm
we
sorry,
can
Taylor.
discuss it after I get a second.
Second.
All right, I got a second from Member Sears. More discussion.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just going to remind everybody that the regulation regarding this does say that the board has the right to come back after approving it and ask for a resubmission. So if we learn that anything.
We can amend whatever we do today.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
now let's
thanks,
help.
Taylor. That's true.
I do have one more question for Karen.
Mhm.
The clerks obviously are happy with this plan, or they wouldn't have submitted it. But sometimes they submit and then you all have to adjust. But they're relatively happy with what they've submitted and you all have approved, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
they sure are. At least
Okay.
that's what we have found, and the ones
Well, I'm
we're
sure-
working with coming up.
I'm sure you would know otherwise, Karen. Yes.
All right,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
I
James.
won't want to draw this out, but I personally have a lot of issues with these county plans reducing voting locations. Precinct is the basic building unit of our election process. And I actually think all of this is violation of Section 148 of our Constitution, because every precinct officer that a person is supposed to serve in the precinct they live in or registered to vote, and that's impossible with these. I don't want to debate this. I just feel like that this is an issue that hopefully will hurt no clerks if it's ever adjudicated, but I expect sooner or later it will be.
Well, James, I've heard that from you before, and you've been pretty consistent about your view on that. And the legislature, I think, put together the ability in the law that they passed to allow clerks to do this. Now, the law itself might be adjudicated unconstitutional at some point. I don't know. But as it stands right now, I believe if we follow the law, this is within the strictures of the laws passed by the General Assembly.
Yeah, I think we have to follow the law. The clerks have to follow the law. I just sort of, I guess, a forewarning of what possibly could happen to that statute.
Yep. All right, very good. We have a motion by Member Lane and a second by Member Sears. All in favor of approving these 13 counties, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? James, you want to oppose it?
No,
right.
because clerks are following the law. We're following the law as written.
Right.
I do have an issue with it though.
Okay, very good. All right. Let's see, Karen, HAVA dollars.
Okay, I'll be quick on this, and hopefully, Mr. Secretary, I will have answered your question. So we have finally made a determination about the amount of dollars we're going to close the security grant, and that is almost $7 million at 6.992. That based on the number of precincts now of the counties that meet the criteria to get reimbursement for election equipment purchases made in 2022 would make the per precinct payment $2,200 a month. Now, we have sent out a memo to all the counties that have said they are interested in getting reimbursed for these dollars to purchase election equipment. They have to return that answer to us by December 10th. If there are counties who are going to decline the funding after all, say their fiscal court will not make up the balance, or for whatever reason, then we will need to reconfigure the number of precincts and divide it again by the 6.992 million, in which case 2,200 is the minimum. It could tick up just a little. We can't guarantee that, but we do know it's 2,200. Next step after that, Taylor will work on a template, a contract that we will need to get to each of the counties that define, yes, we are accepting those dollars. Yes, we will spend it on election equipment for the 2022 election, or some counties have already purchased it. It hasn't come in, or some have already purchased it and it is in. So we would reimburse those counties because they would be using it going forward. So we'll prepare a memorandum of agreement for that. The counties will take that to their fiscal court. They will sign it. It will be signed by SBE. And after that, then I'll bring those contracts back to the board for approval. That each county has agreed to the criteria. And once that's done, then we will submit for payment to each of the counties. So the payment will likely not come until after February 1st. And the counties are aware of that. Many of the counties are fronting the money, and then they will just reimburse their fiscal court, or they'll put it toward the principal if they borrowed the dollars to do that. We have about 83 counties right now that have said that they will accept the dollars. But again, we're waiting till December 10th to verify that number again, because some of them are going to fiscal court.
And any questions? Michael.
I've got a question. So let's take one of the plans that was just approved, Livingston, for example. They've got 10 precincts, but they've got 2 voting locations. So do they get reimbursed for having 10 or for having 2? In other words, part of the rationale for the vote centers was to enable the counties to do this process in a more efficient manner and need fewer public dollars. Do they have their cake and eat it too if they reduce voting locations and then get reimbursed by the precinct versus the location?
It's my understanding, I haven't seen all of some of the counties have sent me their equipment. Some of them are actually purchasing extra. They're not getting, just because Livingston has 2 locations, they're not doing one machine here, one machine here. Most counties appear to be making sure they get at least 2 extra pieces of equipment at each of their locations. Some of them are doing their, say one location would be all of their precincts. They may have up to 4 to 6 machines at that one particular voting location. They're not necessarily, I don't think now granted, they are reducing the number of machines if they had 2 machines at each precinct. I know what Livingston is. I can't remember the number of machines that they are ordering.
Okay.
I feel
But you're
certain
going by
they're-
the precincts.
Yeah, but we're dividing it by the precincts. That's the way the HAVA dollars were distributed
Right.
in 2008. And just
So
believe,
It's a legal requirement then?
well, we
No.
can work. I don't know that it was a legal requirement, but in working with HAVA, we, to get the dollars back, Rachel was, working with them and I think she expressed that we would use the same criteria to distribute the dollars as we did.
Michael, as I understand it, it's the criteria that we've used regularly, and they're really, we haven't had a fulsome discussion about any other criteria. Now, if you think that there is a better criteria that you believe would be fair or more useful, maybe it's something that we ought to discuss and take up. Because I don't think there's any magic to that criteria.
No.
It's just what we've used before.
It's a block grant, basically, right?
Well,
Yeah.
it's a block grant based on the number of precincts, though.
Right.
And if they're reducing their precincts, I understand exactly what you're saying. If they're reducing their precincts, maybe arguably they shouldn't get the same amount of money as they would if they kept all their precincts. So I don't know. I mean, it's something that we just have not discussed as a board, and maybe, if you feel like we ought to discuss it and there's a reason why we ought to maybe change how we allocate the money, I would submit to you that maybe we ought to take that up at the next meeting.
I would like to do that. I don't want to change the criteria per se. I just think that we need to be specific about what a precinct is, and we should probably converse with each other about that. But that's certainly.
But we need to understand
Yeah.
all the ins and outs of it, I think, and what's at stake if we do decide to change it in some form or fashion.
Is there a written document or regulation or something that we need to interpret, that we need to clarify, or is this just sort of a unwritten rule?
Well, we based it on, the previous contracts that we've seen. For instance, we approved one for Lewis County where they accessed the HAVA dollars from 2008, and that's the same type contract that would be, a template of, they are all going to have their counties when they're not really consolidating or changing their counties, they're putting them in voting centers. But surely, absolutely, we can discuss if you believe that we might need to assess the per precinct amount based on their, based on what they're doing in their communities for their.
We don't need to disperse the money today or make a decision today, do we, Karen?
Well, it would be
Through
nice
these.
to move forward. Some of the counties are anxious to get it, but of course we can, I still think if we can come to a conclusion and work with Secretary Adams, if he has a criteria that may be more appropriate, or, he would like to put out in front for the board. I don't know that it would slow up the process for delivery of dollars in February.
I asked Karen the same question, Michael, and I just, because I wasn't clear on why the precinct, and precincts, there's some precincts with just a handful of voters and other precincts with thousands of voters. And it's in my mind, a little bit of a strange way to be able to decide allocation, but that's how the answer Karen gave me was that's how they've done it. when they've allocated the money before, and I didn't have an alternative. So I think if we're going to allocate it differently, I think we need to have some kind of a rational alternative.
Well, if it's all right with you all, I'll work offline on this over the next few weeks and touch base with Karen,
Okay.
and then we'll come back to it or not.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know that anybody's got any, anybody on the board has any view on it one way or the other. Maybe the clerks do, but I don't.
I want to talk
I'm-
to Jason too. Sorry, go ahead.
Are we reimbursing them according to the precincts, not the vote centers?
Right.
Right.
And regardless of the population of each precinct?
Right.
Right.
Because this
That's
is
my
for,
understanding.
this is HAVA dollars and this is for the purchase of equipment, right, Karen?
Yes.
This is
Yes.
different from the reimbursement that counties get every year for precincts. We get reimbursed after elections for every precinct that has more than, it used to be 250 voters. I
Right.
don't know if that's still the same or not,
Right.
but
we
we got reimbursed for so many precincts if they were that amount or more,
Right.
correct?
And this is different.
This is what I thought. This is.
Well,
these
we
are HAVA
probably
dollars.
ought, I think this
Okay.
merits a discussion, Mr. Secretary. Why don't you have a look at it if you don't mind, and work with Karen offline to come up with, maybe you can have a better and fairer way to allocate the money.
Okay. Will
Well,
do.
I
Thank you.
think another consideration is the cost of the voting equipment. The 2,200 per precinct is far from covering the cost of the new voting equipment,
Mhm.
according to what I understand. Is that correct?
Right. It is. Some of
Okay.
the equipment is eight to 10,000 per piece.
Yes, that was my understanding, but it's a help.
So,
But it helps.
It's a complicated thing, as you can see,
It is.
and I
Okay.
doubt there's any good answer to it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Karen, what do you need us to do today?
I will talk to Mr. Secretary, and I'll reach back out to the counties and maybe defer. I mean, it won't be deferring, that we may be reconsidering the 2,200, but in the meantime, we are getting information back about which counties are wanting to participate, and that goes on till December 10th. So they're going to their fiscal courts to see if they're willing to accept. I mean, there's not any counties that will have all of their election equipment paid for, to my knowledge, because
All right,
it's not
why
that
don't-
much money.
Then we won't do anything today, and you and the secretary will talk about it, and hopefully we'll have a solution on at the December meeting. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Works.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Now, the last thing we have is to set the December meeting, and I've got on my sheet that it's the 18th, but I think the 18th is a Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. So somebody needs to give me a different date, unless I've got the date wrong.
The third Tuesday would be the 21st.
All right. Is the 21st all right for everybody, or is that too close to Christmas?
Works for me.
Works for me.
Works for me.
All right. Well, it works for me too then.
Moving that day, but I will do my best.
All right, it's 10 a.m. on the 21st of December will be the next scheduled board meeting. And with that, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Got a motion by member Sears, a second by member Lewis. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Bye.
Wonderful to be with you all. See you next time.
Thank you, everyone.
all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.